Trump went after Canada hard on trade, and Canadians clapped back in the most unexpected way. Instead of buying American cars, they switched to Japanese rides like Honda and Toyota, and now Detroit's grip in Canada is falling apart. Only 23% of vehicle production left belongs to the so-called Detroit Three: Ford, General Motors, and Stellantis. These same giants once built more than 100 million vehicles in this country. The kings of manufacturing for nearly 100 years are barely hanging on. Less than a quarter of cars built in Canada come from them now. The rest? It's all Honda and Toyota. The Japanese brands doubled down on Canada when the American companies packed up and left. Trump's tariffs were meant to pull factories back to the U.S., make Canada bow down, and pump up American automakers. But what really happened? Those moves backfired big time. They crushed Detroit's footprint in Canada. It pushed Canadian buyers straight into the arms of Japanese brands, showing that bullying your closest trade partner can destroy your own market share. Today, we're breaking down how Trump's trade war didn't just miss the mark. It handed Japan the keys to Canada's auto industry on a silver platter. Here's the shocking breakdown of how the Detroit Three went from 56% of Canada's auto production down to just 23% in under 10 years. Honda and Toyota held their ground while American automakers cut jobs, shut down plants, and watched their dominance crumble. And get this, the incoming wave of Chinese electric vehicles is about to make Detroit's nightmare even worse. Back in the mid-2010s, Canada was assembling around 2.3 million vehicles a year. Fast forward to last year, that number nosedived to 1.2 million. Almost half of the country's auto production vanished, and guess who took the biggest hit? Ford, Stellantis, and General Motors. The Detroit Three. These companies once ruled Canada's roads, running multiple plants across Ontario and employing thousands. But last year, their share of Canadian auto production dropped to 23%. More than half of their market gone. Meanwhile, Honda and Toyota didn't just survive, they thrived. Their production share shot up to a jaw-dropping 77%. And here's the kicker, Honda and Toyota didn't even need to expand dramatically. They simply stayed consistent while Detroit fell apart. According to the Trillium Network for Advanced Manufacturing, which has tracked Ontario's auto industry for a decade, the findings are crystal clear. The report lays it out brutally. Detroit's influence in Canada is fading fast, Japan is taking over, and this trend isn't slowing down anytime soon. Brendan Sweeney, who heads the Trillium Network, dropped a truth bomb. He said Japanese companies look at their plants as networks. American companies see them as profit centers. Take Toyota, for example. They're building the RAV4 Hybrid and Lexus RX right in Cambridge and Woodstock. Meanwhile, Honda's plants pump out the Civic and CR-V in Alliston. These factories are locked into massive global systems focused on long-term growth. They play the long game, not the quick cash grab. But Detroit? They're obsessed with short-term profits. Instead of asking how to keep plants strong, they ask if they're profitable this quarter. When numbers look bad, boom, production cuts and layoffs. While American giants were trimming down, Honda and Toyota doubled down. They poured money into upgrades and retooled for hybrids. Look at the RAV4 Hybrid. It's one of Canada's top-selling vehicles, and it's built right here in Ontario. Detroit bailed, but Japan stayed. This collapse isn't just numbers, it's personal. Back in the mid-2010s, Detroit's automakers employed 60% of Canada's assembly workers. By last year, that dropped to 40%. The union representing tens of thousands of Canadian auto workers finally stepped in, and they're not holding back. They've been pressuring the government to reward companies that actually invest in Canada, putting real money into new tech and steady jobs. Flavio Volpe, president of the APMA, made it clear. He said government incentives shouldn't just go to old Detroit legends, they should go to any company creating jobs. If Japan's automakers are putting down roots and keeping people employed, they've earned their spot at the table. Loyalty to companies that cut and run, that doesn't make sense anymore. Now let's rewind to how this all started. Remember Trump's 25% tariffs on vehicles from Canada and Mexico? Those were the infamous Section 232 national security tariffs, meant to strong-arm automakers into shifting production back to the U.S. The goal was to force factories south of the border, but the plan ignored one huge reality. North America's auto industry is deeply connected. In the end, the attempt to bring jobs back ended up shifting the balance of power in Canada's industrial heartland. The keys to Canada's roads are now held in the East. Thanks for watching this deep dive into the changing landscape of North American trade. Stay tuned for our next investigative report. Detroit executives themselves testified that cross-border supply chains are essential. Canadian factories build key parts for American trucks, while U.S. plants crank out engines for Canadian sedans. Everything is linked, and those tariffs didn't protect jobs. They tangled the entire system even worse. Trump's tariffs blew up the entire auto game, and the fallout was brutal. General Motors took a massive hit, reporting $1.1 billion in tariff costs. Stellantis warned their losses could top $3 billion. But here's the twist. The Japanese automakers barely flinched. Honda and Toyota build most of their cars locally, which means their supply chains don't rely heavily on border crossings. So, while Detroit was getting slammed, Japan was cruising. Canadian buyers noticed. They started asking why they should stay loyal to U.S. brands that keep slashing jobs while Japanese companies keep pouring money in. Then came the bombshell move. Trump cut a deal with Japan, dropping tariffs on Japanese imports down to 15%, while cars coming from Canada and Mexico were still hit with that painful 25%. Matt Blunt, president of the AAPC, went off saying, "Any deal that charges lower tariffs for Japanese imports than North American-built vehicles with high United States content is a bad deal." Even the United Auto Workers called foul. Former GM executive Warren Brown warned that this deal put every car built in Canada by the Detroit 3 at a major disadvantage. Meanwhile, Toyota broke records, selling 249,000 vehicles and keeping the RAV4 on top as Canada's best-selling passenger vehicle, over 75,000 units strong. Honda is on fire right now. Their CR-V and Civic are crushing their segments, pulling in massive sales across Canada. GM still holds the market lead, but the details tell a different story. Cadillac and GMC had record years, while Chevrolet, for the everyday buyer, is struggling hard. Ford landed in second place. But here's the catch. Nearly half of their total sales come from just one line, the F-Series pickups. That shows how unbalanced things have become. Canadian buyers are switching gears for better reliability and smoother availability. Japanese companies don't threaten to pull out every time business gets tough. But the next big wave is already forming, and it's coming from China's electric vehicle industry. Canada recently dropped tariffs on Chinese EVs to just 6.1%. Meet BYD, the world's largest electric vehicle maker. They outsold Tesla globally last year with 4 million vehicles. These cars sell for nearly half the price of Western EVs. The BYD Seagull sells for around $10,000 in China. Even after factoring in safety costs, BYD could easily sell cars in Canada for under $25,000. Now compare that to what's out there. The cheapest new EV in Canada costs over $40,000. There's a massive hole in the market, and Chinese automakers are about to storm through it. Unifor slammed the tariff cuts, calling them a self-inflicted wound. They warned that buyers will pick low prices over loyalty every time. Global Automakers of Canada also sounded the alarm. Even Japanese automakers are nervous about the Chinese surge. Brian Kingston tried to defend Detroit, saying they've built over 100 million vehicles in Canada. True, but history doesn't pay today's workers. Now Mark Carney faces a brutal decision. Back the Detroit 3, who keep slashing jobs, or fund the Japanese, and maybe even Chinese, automakers building here. His answer? A $2 billion strategic response fund for the auto sector. The plan sounded bold: protect jobs and strengthen Canada's auto supply chain. The government also launched the All in Canada Auto Network, aiming to build more parts domestically. Nice idea, but forcing localization only drives up costs. Then Mark Carney hit pause on the electric vehicle mandate. Detroit pushed hard for it because they're behind on EV tech. Meanwhile, Honda Canada's CEO Dave Jamieson said they're ready for whatever comes next, confident their factories can handle it. But after Trump's tariffs, the system twisted. Trying to keep parts in Canada could actually hurt manufacturers who rely on U.S. demand. The whole strategy is clashing. Let's be honest, Detroit isn't coming back. Their dominance is done. Honda and Toyota earned their lead by investing for decades and treating Canada like home. And now, China's EV giants are knocking. BYD is exploring production in Canada. Imagine a BYD Seagull built in Ontario for under $25,000. That changes everything. Trump's trade wars didn't save Detroit, they sped up its collapse. Toyota and Honda will adapt, but Detroit keeps sinking. Subscribe to Canada Today 13 for more. Thanks for watching.